Quite often I wonder how spoiled we are in fashion and how quick to judge the merits of each collection from any major label on its ability to break new ground. Like it has to be groundbreaking, right? To somehow move the needle in a way that pushes the industry and design forward. That's our expectation. And if that's what you were looking for or expecting in Pharrell's first official men's collection at LV, then you'd be sorely disappointed. If anything, it was safe. Just as safe as Virgil's first outing at LV, the same first outing that people are now posthumously applauding, but were increasingly critical when it was first displayed. And I said it then, as I'm saying now, this LV collection, much like Virgil's first LV collection, is not so much about breaking ground, but selling garments. But more on that in a bit. I'm Reggie Casual, and this is Unscripted. Let's get it. The minute I saw the first few looks from admittedly one of my favorite entertainers and producers in the world, I knew what was going on. Pharrell was going to play it safe and present a whole bunch of garments and pieces that people, particularly in the mainstream of fashion, would instantly want to buy. And make no mistake, despite a few questionable eyebrow raises from myself, the collection's clear voice and digital camo touch theme largely made sense. It was cohesive from a business perspective. But despite its spring-summer title, the elongated coats and predominantly wider silhouettes, and of course, the largely muted green-brown color palette looked more like a right after fall collection, and I think this is where things got a bit confusing for those partaking in watching it. As I watched Jay-Z and his wife Beyonce bob their heads in the audience to what was by any stretch a pretty damn good presentation, I was quickly reminded how serious this occasion was as LV chairman and richest man ever Bernard Arnault sat stoically beside the Music Hall of Fame duo. Because by all accounts, the runway presentation itself was damn good. And anybody who knows Pharrell's body of work, you should have expected it. He didn't turn it into a pop concert as many had feared. Those fears were immediately abated once the more sensual sounds of the second musical score screamed of Pharrell's penchant for soothing melodies and music production, although it did become a very musical event. But I was kind of happy because as soon as those first few chords played of that second musical score, I knew it was Pharrell, and it put a smile on my face. But this, admittedly, isn't music, and while Pharrell's artistic direction is greatly benefited by his skills in being a bona fide musician and creative, fusing that into fashion whilst also tight-roping the business aspect seemed a major challenge. And as a result, we are left with an LV collection that looks like it took pages out of Hermes, Virgil's middle collections at LV, the Nigo and LV human-made collaboration, and of course, Nigo's Kenzo. And you know what? That's really smart. Really smart, because right now that look is selling. It's the trend, and again, it's safe. And I will be honest and say I didn't see a distinct Pharrell high fashion design DNA in this collection, like at all. But what I did see is a whole lot of pieces that the now grown up street heads would absolutely want. It was highly accessible. Anybody could pull off any of that stuff that they saw on the runway. It wasn't really anything new, but it made sense. And by that measure, the collection was a complete success. Loosely silhouetted shorts mixed with loosely yet phenomenally tailored blazers, elegantly swayed across the runway, successfully making menswear look comfortable. And that is important for this generation and past generations even. The digital camo that we saw a lot of was used well, but of course it was derivative. I was reminded of Nike doing something like that a few years back on an Air Force One, and I immediately thought of that, so that kind of was weird for me. The Lovers theme that was emblazoned on a few pieces were a bit off-putting, and the denim look was an abrupt change of pace along with other street-adjacent looks, but that was to be expected. Side note, if you follow Pharrell's music production methodology, he does the exact same thing. Like, just listen to a music track by Pharrell and get to the middle of the song. Like clockwork, there's almost always a musical bridge that completely changes the tone of the score, only to go back to the original score with a few new flourishes to finish things off. After watching the entirety of the collection, I realized that's what Pharrell was doing. He was producing a track. But again, this isn't music, and while music and fashion synergistic qualities are well documented, the jig is up with one of the most anticipated runways of the year from one of the most anticipated labels. High fashion is no longer about moving the design needle. It's It's not about pushing boundaries. It's not about breaking ground. It's about making sure as much product sells as possible. We should have learned that a long time ago. And this product from LV will sell, guaranteed. As the name behind it, both in terms of the person behind it, Pharrell, and the brand it represents, Louis Vuitton. The collection is very approachable and easy to wear. It manages to instill LV's DNA with great and subtle use of the squared monogram design, and more than enough friends of Pharrell are going to wear it to support this endeavor. It will be, by all accounts, successful because they'll force it to be if it isn't. Now, should that disappoint fans of designer fashion? Like art, designer fashion? Well, yes and no. Kind of expected that, right? Yes, because we have to forget about the return of form for the stalwarts of the industry. It's not gonna happen. We cannot rely on them to break ground, but it gives more of a reason to celebrate the hundreds of independent designers that are breaking new ground. There's just more intrigue and controversy surrounding these big labels, and no matter how you swing it, we humans run to intrigue and controversy like moths to a flame. And I got all of them here. And again, I can rant on about this, but you kind of get it. So succinctly, the collection was safe, but more importantly, accessible to the clientele it hopes to attract. And I'm about as biased in this as I can get. I am certainly a huge Pharrell fan and supporter, so I am 100% behind his, success. I want him to succeed, right? So it's important to have that context so you guys can, fix it, right? Like, change my opinion. I mean, I'm not even saying that I want anything from this collection, but I am a fan of Pharrell, so I need you. I just hope that LVMH realizes before it's too late that having essentially two Kenzos on the roster isn't the best idea going forward. We don't need two Kenzos, and that's what LV kind of looked like. And that's the take, but what do you think of Pharrell's first outing as men's artistic director for Louis Vuitton? Good, bad, mid? Let your thoughts be known in the comments. And join us for Overtime on Patreon, where you can get my unadulterated, honest thoughts about the fashion industry and how it pertains to this very topic, as well as other bonus content and more. But most importantly, keep it locked right here for all of your info in international fashion culture and business from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And I'll see you guys in a minute.